Hello everyone, welcome back to Short Times. In today's episode, I will be recapping the 2021 movie Nobody. The movie begins in an interrogation room where a battered Hutch Mansell is feeding a stray cat and smoking a cigarette. The detectives ask for his identity, and he responds by saying he is a nobody. The story then shifts to a few days earlier, where Hutch is seen leading a monotonous life, starting from his morning workout to his daily routine of commuting to his unfulfilling job, and constantly missing the garbage truck. He is married to a real estate agent named Becca, and they have 2 children, Blake and Sammy. Hutch and Becca have grown apart, and Blake has lost faith in his father. One night, Hutch goes to check on his children and notices Blake gesturing towards downstairs, indicating a break-in. Hutch quietly heads downstairs and finds a couple attempting to rob the house. The woman points a gun at Hutch, who tells her to take money from the cash bowl in the kitchen. They also demand his watch and wedding ring, but Hutch only allows them to take the watch. As they try to escape, Blake tackles the male robber and holds him down. The woman approaches them with the gun, and Hutch appears to get ready to attack her with a golf club, but stops himself and instructs Blake to let Lewis go. Lewis punches him in the face before they escape. The police arrive later, and Hutch feels guilty for his inaction while both Blake and the responding officer criticize him for not acting more courageously. Later at work, Hutch's father-in-law and boss, Eddie, confronts him about the break-in, while Becca's brother, Charlie, gives him a gun for self-defense. Hutch later communicates with his brother Harry, who is in hiding, through a radio. He confesses that he didn't attack the robbers because he realized that the woman's gun was empty. Later, Hutch visits his retired FBI agent father, David, who notices that Hutch seems unwell. Hutch struggles to move on from the incident and feels guilty for not protecting his family during the break-in. When his daughter, Sammy, mentions that her kitty cat bracelet is missing, Hutch suspects that the robbers stole it. He becomes determined to recover Sammy's missing kitty cat bracelet and sets off on a bus to track down the robbers. He goes to David's house to retrieve his old FBI badge and gun, but David wakes up and sees him. Hutch tells him he has to take care of something and leaves. Hutch remembers the tattoo on the woman's wrist and decides to investigate. He visits several tattoo parlors until he finds a shady one. The men inside try to intimidate him, but one of them notices a tattoo on Hutch's wrist that looks like a pair of cards and thanks him for his service before leaving. The tattoo artist realizes that Hutch is serious and provides him with information about the person who got the tattoo. Hutch tracks down the robber's apartment and breaks in. The pistol whips the women and threatens them until they hand over the watch, but they don't have Sammy's bracelet. Hutch realizes that the couple has a sick baby and reluctantly leaves after they plead with him. He exits the apartment in the rain and vents his frustration by punching a brick wall. Hutch boards a bus to return home. Several drunken men enter and begin harassing the other passengers, including a young woman. Hutch intervenes and asks the bus driver to stop the vehicle. He starts fighting the men, taking several hits but eventually gaining the upper hand. However, one of the men stabs him in the side with a knife. Hutch continues to fight and even manages to stab a few of the men before he is thrown out of the bus. He re-enters and resumes the fight. One of the men, Teddy, grabs Hutch's gun and tries to shoot him, but Hutch disarms him and beats him with a pole until he cracks his windpipe. Teddy starts to suffocate, and Hutch performs a tracheotomy to save his life. Hutch returns home to find Becca awake, and she tends to his wound. He admits to her that their distant relationship has been bothering him. Meanwhile, at a local nightclub, Yulian Kuznetsov, a mobster, attends a meeting with other associates to discuss the safety of their shared fortune, the Upshack. However, the others underestimate Yulian due to his peculiar habits, including his love for dancing. Yulian quickly proves his ruthlessness when he brutally attacks and kills one of the shareholders with a broken martini glass. The others celebrate his death as it means more money for them. Soon after, Yulian is summoned to the hospital, where he discovers that his younger brother, Teddy, has suffered permanent brain damage. He aggressively interrogates Teddy's friends to determine who is responsible for his brother's condition. Meanwhile, Hutch receives a warning call from Harry, who informs him that Yulian has taken an interest in him and is a dangerous man. Harry advises Hutch to visit a man named the Barber for more information on Yulian. Hutch heads to the downtown area and meets the Barber, who had been anticipating his arrival. The Barber provides Hutch with a file on Yulian highlighting his violent nature and the fact that the shack houses millions of dollars in mob money. Following that, Yulian orders his henchwoman to investigate Hutch and find any incriminating information on him. She coerces an FBI informant with compromising photos of him into obtaining classified details on Hutch's past. After discovering Hutch's dark past as a merciless killer, the henchwoman is so disturbed that she resigns and abandons Yulian. Left alone, Yulian commands his subordinates to capture Hutch alive and bring him to him. The Mansell family prepares to have dinner when Hutch sees 3 cars arriving together and parking across the street from his house. He knows that danger is imminent, so he has Becca and the kids hide in a panic room in the basement. He then kills the lights as the gunmen enter the house. Hutch proceeds to fight them off, shooting and stabbing most of them until he is tased in the neck. The gunmen put him in the trunk and plan to bring him back to Yulian. However, Hutch regains consciousness in the trunk and opens it. When he realizes he can't just roll out, he finds a fire extinguisher and sprays the car, causing the gunmen to crash. Hutch crawls out of the back and finds one of Yulian's men still alive but pinned under the car and bleeding out. As he dies, Hutch tells the man that he used to be an auditor, a feared hitman. Hutch calls David and warns him to watch himself before running back home. He frees his family from the panic room, covering Sammy's eyes to shield her from the corpses in the house. Hutch sends Becca and the kids to a safe place, and she asks him to promise to come back to them. Following that, Hutch gathers the bodies of the gunmen and the one barely surviving man and brings them to the basement. He starts to talk about his past, mentioning the last job he had where he had to kill a man who was stealing money. The man pleaded for his life, and Hutch could see his genuine remorse for his actions, so he let him go. Hutch later tracked the man down and saw that he was happily married with 2 children. Hutch admits to being jealous, and this is what led him to retire and settle down. He douses the place in kerosene and sets the whole house on fire before leaving to take care of more business. Hutch arrives at Eddie's shop with a bag of gold bars and offers to buy the place. However, Charlie is unhappy with the deal because he thinks he will lose his job. In his anger, he tries to attack Hutch, but Hutch quickly punches him in the stomach. Eddie accepts the payment and Hutch begins to rearrange the place, setting up booby traps everywhere. Later, Hutch goes to the shack and kills all of the guards before burning all of Yulian's money. Meanwhile, 2 of Yulian's goons go to the retirement home where David is staying. They try to attack him while he's sleeping, but David is prepared and blasts one goon with a shotgun before suffocating the other one. Next, Hutch goes to Yulian's nightclub and sits down for a meal. The gunmen surround Hutch, but he reveals that he has a claymore mine strapped to his finger as a precaution. Yulian has the gunman back off and talks to Hutch. Hutch tells Yulian that he has destroyed everything he has, causing Yulian to flip out upon learning that the shack is gone. Hutch leaves the nightclub, and Yulian and his men pursue him in a high-speed car chase through the streets. Hutch kills several of Yulian's men before managing to make it back to the warehouse. As the villains arrive at the warehouse, they open fire on Hutch. But to his surprise, Harry and David show up to help him. Together, they fight off the henchmen by using booby traps set up by Hutch. The traps include firing bars to impale the enemies or blowing them up. After taking out the goons, they face Yulian, who threatens to harm Hutch's family. Hutch quickly tapes a claymore mine to a bulletproof window and charges towards Yulian, pulling the pin and killing him. Hutch thanks his allies and has them leave before the cops arrive. He then finds the cat and takes it with him. In the interrogation room, Hutch maintains that he's just a nobody. The detectives receive a phone call, but nothing is heard or stated. Hutch is released, and he leaves with the cat. In the next scene, 3 months have passed, and Hutch and Becca are seen checking out a new house. While they are looking around, the real estate agent's phone rings, and Hutch answers it. However, we can't hear anything, but it is suggested that someone is still after him. After the call, Hutch and Becca ask the agent if the house has a basement. That's it for our quick rundown of Nobody. Let me know in the comments if you've seen the movie and what you thought of it. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. Stay tuned for more exciting recaps, and I'll see you in the next one.